After 50 hours, hundreds of fights, numerous puzzles, and many heavy companion conversations, I finally feel like I'm in a place to give my opinion on Dragon Age Veilguard. And honestly, I'm surprised. After seeing the initial response from the community on YouTube and X, I decided I was going to play through the game before I weighed in on this. And I'm really glad that I did. Because although there was some areas of the game I felt could have been done a little bit better, and some of the story that felt a little bit cold, Dragon Age The Veilguard did a lot right as a video game, and it hooked me from an early point. Firstly, I want to give a big shout out to EA and BioWare for sending me a code for Dragon Age Veilguard. It has taken me a month to get any content out for it, but I really wanted to go into depth with this. I didn't want to just play 5 to 10 hours and give my opinion. So yeah, thank you once again for sending me out the code. So let's have a look at the newest Dragon Age game, and hopefully I can help you decide whether you want to give it a shot or not. So let's take a look at the story first, and don't stress, there won't be any spoilers. Dragon Age Veilguard sees you play as Rook, a character from Thedas who is part of a party looking to stop Solus, the Dreadwolf, from tearing apart the Veil. And after the first interaction, things go so much more wrong, and you take on the role of Band-Aider as you attempt to fix the situation that your party has created. The main story was great, and it twists and turns in ways that genuinely were unexpected, and utilizes the rich amount of lore that the Dragon Age franchise is known for. Want Grey Wardens? You've got them. Darkspawn hordes taking over the countryside? Here you go. Forgotten Elven gods and the magic that they left behind? Well, you're just going to have to play the game to find that one out for yourself. But alongside the main missions, you also have your companion quests, and these delve deeper into the lore, but also where some of the stories do go a little bit cold. For myself, I struggled to build connections with some of the companions, as I felt their stories were kind of just there. They didn't really have any urgency or feeling that compelled me to progress or finish them outside of for the sake of it. And I noticed that these companions were the ones that I didn't use often either. And I understand it's hard to make every companion likable and relatable, but I do want to be invested to some degree for the story. Overall, the story for Vanguard was fantastic, and even with some of the side quests being a little dull, the main quests, discoverables, the books, the scrolls, and the missives received hooked me into the world and really made me feel for these major swings that took place within the story. Now, gameplay and mechanics. Although we moved away from that complete open world feel Inquisition had, Veilguard felt much more alive and full of feeling than I remember Inquisition ever having. I think this has got a lot to do with the overall game mechanics. First, the traveling. Now, Veilguard uses a similar system to Dragon Age Origins, where you've got this overworld map, and it shows your locations, and you can choose where to travel amongst those locations. The only difference being the crossroads. In Origins, you would auto travel, and there could maybe be encounters along the way, where in Veilguard, you use the crossroads, an area in the Fade connecting the areas of the main adventure. Each area being its own standalone area with a range of different things affecting it. I'm trying not to spoil too much here, so bear with me if this is a very vague description, but this allowed the areas to feel alive and full of, well, everything. The stories could be large, and the effects that took place could change the entire city. And this helps a lot with the immersion and feeling of the overall world. And this brings me to the dialogue. The dialogue options were good, not great, but good. There were usually a specific theme to each of them, like playful, fierce, sad, serious, love, romance style. But sometimes the options felt weird and it was hard to pick between them. There were a few times I found myself just picking something because I needed to progress and really wishing there was another way around it. Where other times I would find myself really wanting a specific way forward, but feeling like the game was really railroading me into a specific decision. The place where it did feel better was the dialogue between the companions, so not choosable dialogue. The dialogue that happens when you're journeying, so them talking to each other, or the little cutscenes that you had at the home base. Those little interactions, this made me enjoy those relationships and made me truly feel when something happened, something big happened, and I was able to immerse myself into the companions a little bit more. Puzzling is a big part of RPGs. Platforming riddles, magical doors, the whole kit and caboodle. And all of these are a big part of Veilguard, but some of them are a little bit sloppy. The search circles with the tiniest hint of the locations were the bane of my playthrough. I could spend so much time walking around this stupid search circle looking for the tiniest little circle that showed you where something was to be interacted with. Pair this with good terrain, it made it so hard to find a small step on such a long quest. Outside of the search circles, some of the platforming was frustrating, but when you fall off the platforms, it just reverted you back to sort of where you were. It wasn't death, so nothing really to complain about, just frustrating here and there. Overall, the puzzling was most of the time a minor inconvenience, and occasionally a really good puzzle that grabbed my attention. Now, finally, the combat. Yes, the combat was different. The combat's very similar to, say, like Mass Effect Andromeda, but Dragon Age-y. You have your standard attacks, your light, your heavy, then your abilities, and those abilities are on your perk tree, so you've got different specializations, which was very cool. You then also have your companions' abilities that you can trigger whilst they fight alongside you, and there are some crazy synergies that you can definitely explore. And you have your defensive parry and riposte, however you say it, I don't know how to say it, which depending on your playstyle can be very important. I played a rogue, so my parry in my head was extremely important. I wanted to be in and out and be able to defend, you know what I mean. But the only real bad thing I have to say about the combat is sometimes there is far too much going on the screen, and it can become really hard to read the battle. If you're a person using the parry action like I was trying to, you can't even see when the parry is incoming. Like it's got a little symbol above it that turns white and turns yellow. It still hasn't been explained to me at what point you actually do press the parry button, and I felt like I was just getting lucky, but even then sometimes you can't see when you're supposed to attempt the parry, if that makes sense. Other times there's just too much on the screen that you don't even know who your character is, or who your companions are, or even what enemy is which at some points, which is important in some cases. This did become extremely frustrating at some points throughout the game, but I feel like for most part, the combat was pretty solid. I chose my specialization early, and I didn't really feel the need for change until pretty much the last fight. I'm not saying the combat got boring, it's just that I got into a rhythm and combats were starting to become less exciting. So I could have just refunded my skill points and changed my specialization, but I didn't need to because I was at that point where I was finishing. Overall, my experience with Dragon Age The Veilguard was incredible. I truly did love this game. I have just finished it last night, and already I am looking at starting my second playthrough on a higher difficulty with a different class, which in recent years I don't do very often. The amount of lore the game allows you to interact with has deepened my want to explore the Dragon Age universe more, in a way that Inquisition never made me feel. And I find myself wanting to go back and play the old games again so that I can learn more about the characters and the factions and the locations that I've interacted with in this game. Although the game has received a lot of hate, I would highly suggest picking it up, especially if you love action-based RPGs. If you haven't played the Dragon Age games before, this could be a really nice introduction to a lore-heavy universe with some truly amazing stories. There are so many options for the difficulty settings that even if you're not someone who likes a big challenge, you could see this as more of a walkthrough story tale if you chose to. I enjoyed playing as Rogue Rook, and I'm really keen to see what the other classes have to offer, and even more excited to tackle this bad boy on Nightmare. But thanks for checking out my review on Dragon Age Veilguard, and if you do want to see a full playthrough of it, my Rogue videos will be uploaded here on Anthony YTG weekly. And don't forget to check out my other channel, Gaming Antics, for games room fun and retro collecting. So until next time, enjoy your gaming.